Welcome to my channel. Let's ground this in reality first, because the real story is stronger than the myth. A 1927 Buffalo nickel is not made of silver and is not automatically worth $500,000. These coins were struck in a copper nickel alloy, not precious metal. Most 1927 nickels you'll find are worn and relatively common, but hidden inside that ordinary surface is one of the most fascinating stories in American coin history. This is not just a coin. This is a relic from a time when American money carried the spirit of the land itself, when design was not just decoration but identity. The Buffalo nickel, also known as the Indian head nickel, was born in the early 20th century, carrying on one side the powerful profile of a Native American figure and on the other the image of a massive American bison. It was not just currency, it was a statement. By 1927, these coins were already part of everyday life. They passed through hands in markets, train stations, small shops, and dusty roads across the country. But what made them unique also made them fragile. The design was bold, but the details were shallow. The date, placed on a raised surface, wore down quickly. And over time, millions of these coins lost their identity completely, becoming smooth, dateless pieces of metal. But here is where the hidden story begins. Because when a coin loses its visible date, most people assume it has lost its value. They discard it, ignore it, or spend it without a second thought. But collectors know something different. They know that even a worn coin can carry importance, especially when it comes from a year like 1927. The 1927 issue exists in multiple mint varieties, including coins struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each location produced coins under slightly different conditions, and over time, certain versions became harder to find, especially in higher grades. A 1927 nickel with strong detail, clear date, and minimal was already far more valuable than the average example. But then come the errors, the moments where the system failed. Coins struck off-center, where part of the design drifted away from the edge as if the coin itself slipped during creation. Coins with doubled features, where the image appears slightly repeated due to a misalignment in the die. These are not just imperfections. They are signatures of a moment when precision broke, creating something rare. And then there are the subtle mysteries. Variations in strike quality, unusual toning, surfaces that reflect decades of storage rather than circulation. Each of these factors can influence value in ways that are not immediately obvious. A coin that looks ordinary to one person can appear extraordinary to another who knows exactly what to look for. Now let's confront the powerful claim, the idea of a $500,000 Buffalo nickel. This is where the line between excitement and reality becomes clear. While there are coins in American history that have reached extraordinary auction prices, a typical 1927 Buffalo nickel, even in excellent condition, does not reach that level. To approach such a value, a coin would need to be an extreme rarity, possibly a unique error or an exceptionally preserved specimen combined with intense collector demand. But here is the deeper truth, the one that gives this coin its real power. The Buffalo nickel is not valuable because it is silver or gold. It is valuable because of its history, its design, and its connection to a time that no longer exists. It represents an era when American coinage was bold, artistic, and deeply tied to national identity. And because so many of these coins were used heavily, worn down, and forgotten, the few that survive in strong condition become even more important. Rarity is not always about low mintage. It is often about survival. So when you hold a 1927 Buffalo nickel, you are not just holding 5 cents. You are holding a piece of a story that has traveled through nearly a century of human hands. A coin that has seen change, endured wear, and still exists today. And that is where the opportunity lies. Because the coins that carry real value are not always the ones that shine the brightest. They are the ones that carry the deepest stories. So before you spend it, before you ignore it, take a closer look. Examine the details. Study the surface. Pay attention to what others overlook. Because history has proven something again and again, the greatest treasures are not found by chance alone. They are discovered by those who choose to see beyond the ordinary. The Hype, a 1936 D Buffalo nickel, is not made of silver, and it is not automatically worth $600,000. Like all Buffalo nickels, it was struck in a copper-nickel alloy. Most examples, especially worn ones, are worth modest amounts. But hidden within this year is one of the most fascinating and dramatic chapters in coin collecting. This is not just a coin. This is a snapshot of American motion, a piece of metal that traveled through a nation still recovering from economic hardship, still finding its identity, still holding on to symbols that represented strength and survival. The Buffalo nickel, with its bold design and raw presence, stood apart from every other coin in circulation. It did not try to look polished or delicate. It looked powerful, almost untamed. By 1936, the design had already proven both its beauty and its weakness. The proud profile of the Native American figure on one side and the massive bison on the other created a coin that felt alive, but the details were vulnerable. The date wore down quickly, the high points flattened with use, and over time, many coins lost their sharpness, their clarity, their identity. What survived in strong condition became something rare, something desirable. But here is where the story takes a dramatic turn, because 1936 is not just another year. It is a year of secrets, a year where something unusual happened at the mint, a year that produced one of the most famous varieties in Buffalo nickel history, the 3½ legs error. On certain coins struck in Denver, part of the buffalo's front leg appears to be missing, not completely gone, but partially erased, as if the coin itself is hiding something. This was not intentional. It was a result of over-polishing a die, a process meant to fix imperfections, but instead removing part of the design. The result? A coin that looks almost normal, until you notice what's missing. This subtle difference transformed an ordinary coin into a collector's treasure. Because it is not obvious. It does not scream for attention. It waits to be discovered by someone who knows exactly where to look. And when it is found, its value can rise dramatically, far beyond that of a standard coin from the same year. And then there are the other possibilities. The quiet, less famous, but equally intriguing errors. Coins struck slightly off-center, where the design shifts away from its intended position. Coins with double features, where letters or numbers appear faintly repeated. Coins with unusual surfaces, tones, or textures that hint at something different during their creation. Each of these coins tells a story, not of perfection, but of deviation, not of control, but of a brief moment when the system faltered. And in the world of collecting, those moments are priceless. Now let's face the bold claim, the idea of a $600,000 Buffalo nickel. This is where reality becomes clear and grounded. While there are coins in American history that have reached extraordinary prices, a typical 1936 D Buffalo nickel, even with a known variety like the 3½ legs, does not reach that level. High-grade examples and rare varieties can reach into thousands or even tens of thousands, but values in the hundreds of thousands require extreme rarity, often unique, one-of-kind pieces with exceptional demand. But here is the deeper truth, the one that matters more than any headline number. The real value of this coin lies in its story. It lies in the fact that something so small, so easily overlooked, can carry within it a hidden difference that changes everything. It reminds us that value is not always visible, not always obvious, not always immediate. The 1936 D Buffalo nickel is a perfect example of this. To most people, it is just an old coin, but to someone who understands what to look for, it can be a discovery waiting to happen, a quiet anomaly in a sea of similarity. And that is where the opportunity lives. Because the coins that become valuable are not always the ones everyone is searching for. They are the ones that require patience, attention, and a willingness to see beyond the surface. So before you spend it, before you dismiss it, before you assume it has no meaning, take a closer look. Because history has shown, time and time again, the greatest treasures are not the loudest. They're the ones hidden in silence, waiting for the right eyes to finally notice them. The illusion. A 1929 Buffalo nickel is not made of silver, and it is not automatically worth $300,000. Like all Buffalo nickels, it was struck from a copper-nickel alloy. Most surviving examples, especially those worn from years of use, carry modest value. But beneath that ordinary surface, there is a deeper story, one shaped by history, survival, and the quiet birth of rarity. This is not just a coin, this is a survivor from a moment when the world itself was shifting. The year 1929 was not just another date. It was the edge of a collapse, the beginning of a global economic crisis that would change lives forever. As the Wall Street crash of 1929 sent shockwaves across the nation, coins like this one continued to move through hands, carrying value, trust, and necessity in a time of growing uncertainty. The Buffalo nickel was already a symbol of strength and identity. On one side, the powerful profile of a Native American figure, crafted from multiple inspirations, stood firm, unchanging. On the other side, the massive American bison, grounded and immovable, represented endurance. This was not delicate coinage. This was bold, raw, and deeply connected to the land. But the design carried a hidden weakness. The date, raised and exposed, wore down quickly as these coins passed from person to person. Through markets, wages, survival, many began to lose their most important detail. The year faded, the identity blurred, and over time, countless 1929 nickels became dateless, their origin lost aware. And here is where the hidden value begins to form. Because survival, in the world of coins, is everything. A 1929 nickel with a clear, strong date is already something special. A coin that avoided decades of heavy wear, that preserved its detail, its texture, its original character. That coin stands apart. But then come the deeper layers of rarity. Variations in strike quality, subtle differences between mint outputs, and the occasional minting error all contribute to the mystery. A coin struck slightly off-center. Its design shifted as if it moved at the last second. A coin showing doubling in its lettering, a faint echo of the original strike. These are not just imperfections. They are moments where the system faltered, leaving behind something unique. And then there are the coins that feel different. Coins with unusual surfaces, tones shaped by time and environment, or preservation that locks in their original brilliance. These are the pieces that collectors search for, not just age, not just design, but condition, clarity, and distinction. Now let's confront the bold claim, the idea of a $300,000 Buffalo nickel. This is where reality draws a firm line. While certain coins in American history have achieved extraordinary values, a typical 1929 Buffalo nickel does not reach that level. Even high-grade examples and interesting errors usually fall within far lower ranges. To approach such a price will require an extreme, almost unheard-of combination of rarity, perfection, and demand. But here's the truth that matters more than any headline number. The real power of the 1929 Buffalo nickel lies in its connection to history. It is not just metal, it is memory. It has passed through one of the most difficult periods in modern economic history. It has survived when many others were lost, worn away, or forgotten. And because of that, it carries something more than value. It carries story. This coin reminds us that rarity is not always about how many were made, but how many survived in meaningful condition. It reminds us that even something small, something easily overlooked, can hold significance far beyond its face value. So before you spend that coin, before you dismiss it, before you assume it is just another piece of old currency, look closer, study the date, examine the details, feel the texture, the weight, the quiet presence of history in your hand. Because time has proven something again and again. The coins that matter most are not the ones everyone chases. They're the ones that quietly endure, waiting for someone to finally recognize what they truly are.